What's up, kitchen table wizards? What's up, deck brewers from all over the world? My name is Bram and this channel is about casual magic, about brewing nice decks that play well against each other. But there was a time that this was different, a time that I was competing. I was playing for fame, glory and cold hard cash.
And how did that work out for you, Bram?
Now, if you follow my channel, you know I've been playing Magic for a long time. And there was this time I was traveling all over Europe to play tournaments. It was called the Grand Prix circuit. So I went to a bunch of cool cities like Chevill and Krakow, for example. I also met a bunch of new people, really nice. And although I didn't win a lot, I did learn to improve my game significantly. Now during that time I played a lot with the Abzan deck. You probably know the Abzan deck because it had 4 siege rhinos, but what the cool thing is also that the deck evolved. In the beginning I played the deck in a more control version with cards like Elspeth, Sun's Champion, which is like a planeswalker, very controlling. And I even played a Garruk in the deck. Now later there was a version that was much more aggressive. It had Rakshasa Death Dealers in it. It also had Warden of the First Tree. And it even played Elfish Mystics. And lately there are a lot of cool cards that appeared in some new sets that also have a little bit of a gain 3 life theme that works very well in the Abzan colors. And this is something my friend the Siege Rhino really likes. So Tania, what will be important today?
Gaining 3 lives?
Exactly. And did you already feed the rhinos today?
I'm pretty hungry, and there's a bird on my back. Leave a comment, and maybe you will win a cardmarket voucher. With that I can buy a lot of food tokens. I'm going to Eldraine, yay! Great! Can you also take this guy with you? He keeps sticking his nose where it doesn't belong.
So the deck costs around 40 euros, more or less 50 US dollars. I think it's a really fun deck to play because I like to play grindy mid-range games. But there's one thing I like even more, that's getting fancy with my basic lands. We play 4 basic lands of each and I really want to pay homage to the clan Abzan. And they all have an Abzan citadel on it. All the land art is from Sam Burley, and to be honest, I really dig the tropical summer vibe. Then I included some dual lands. There are 2 Canopy Vistas, 2 Caves of Koilos and 2 Llanowar Wastes. And some more dual lands that gain us life, like Blossoming Sands, Jungle Hollow and the Manland Shambling Vents that also gives us life. Because, Tania?
Gaining 3 lives.
Exactly! And an Abzan deck has to be complete with some Sandstep Citadels. Now the Abzan decks I used to play always have a bunch of removal in it. And if you play it in standard, you probably go with a lot of 4-offs or 3-offs. Now, the way I play casual Magic, or the way Commander players play Magic, is they like a lot of diversity in the deck, and this is also what I tend to do with the removal. Eliminate can deal with cheap planeswalkers and smaller creatures. The iconic Swords to Plowshares is great in any deck, but because of the life gain, specifically in our deck. And Kaya's Guile is a super flexible card that you can use to have your opponent sacrifice a creature, exile a graveyard, create a spirit token, or gain 4 life. And the last option is important, Because
Gaining 3 lives is important in this deck.
exactly. Now you know I like art, you know I like playing Magic, so the next card is pretty obvious. I include 2 copies of Mythos of Netroy, really nice removal card. Then the Abzan staple Dromoka's Command and a Maelstrom Pulse, which deals with almost anything. Then I also include 1 mass removal card called Shatter the Sky and the Abzan staple Abzan Charm. It can make creatures stronger, it can exile a creature or draw us some extra cards. But this is not the only card that can draw us some extra cards. Read the Bones was also a staple in my Abzan deck. It's really good, especially for being a common. Then Revitalize also draws some cards, and Bond of Flourishing is also a card selection. And they both
Gain 3 lives.
yes! And now let's look at some creatures. A typical Abzan deck has a nice split against creatures and other spells. And of course it has Siege Rhinos. We needed to include Siege Rhinos in a deck. And I included 3. Not 4 because I keep it casual, but I really need the 3 Siege Rhinos as they are really important in this deck. The next 3 creatures will explain you why. The Silver Smote Ghoul is a nice 3-drop that is very flexible. It comes back when you gain some life and you can sacrifice it to draw a card. The Indulging Patrician also likes when you gain life, because then it will drain 3 additional life from your opponent at the end step. And Vito Thorn of the Dusk Rose just likes you to gain any amount of life. But we like... Tania?
Gain 3 lives.
Yes! Scavenging Ooze is a card that deals great with graveyards. And it also can gain us some life. The Knight of Autumn is a very flexible card that can come into play as a strong creature, can destroy an artifact or enchantment, or it can also...
Gain 3 lives.
Well, it gains us 4 life, but yes. And there's also the Charming Prince. This one can scry, it can flicker cards and can...
Gain 3 lives.
Exactly. And then there's also Healer of the Glade that...
3 lives.
and a Den Protector and this one...
Bad cat that gives us 3 lives.
Yeah, it can also do that. Maybe now some legendary creature
That can use 3 lives.
Let's look at the legendary creatures. Chevill, Bane of Monsters is a 2-drop with Death Touch that could put some bounty counters on creatures, and when they die you gain 3 life and draw a card. Then there's also Tolsimir, Friend of Wolves. When it comes into play it brings a wolf with it, and this wolf can fight with another creature and you can also get 3 life. Then I also included 1 Netroy Apex of Death. And you see it right here, I included the comic book art, really cool card. It's a very strong card for 5 mana. It's a 5/5 with Death Touch and lifelink. And this is important because we want to... Tania, are you still there? Okay. It also has a mutate ability that's really cool in the deck. Can bring back a bunch of creatures with a lot of enter the battlefield abilities to really kill your opponent out of the blue. Griffin Aerie likes us getting 3 life because it will give us some griffins in return. And the Dawn of Hope is a great enchantment against the control player. It can draw us a bunch of cards and it could also make us life-linking soldiers. And then for nostalgic reasons I needed to include Soren the Solemn Visitor It won me a very cool match in the Grand Prix that I still remember, and it can give the team lifelink. And I won the match because I had it use its ultimate ability to lock out my opponent. If you don't have this Planeswalker, you can also include Sorin the Vengeful Bloodlord. So this was the deck, now let's head into the power rankings. Abzan decks are powerful decks. And maybe this is a budget deck, but it still packs a lot of punch. It is quite consistent to play and you can play it on the offense as well as on the defense with a lot of removal. I really enjoy playing it and it's definitely value for money. Now let's look at how the deck does against other decks. This deck does great against aggressive decks because a lot of life gain is included. And it even does well against mid-range decks because the removal spells are very flexible and can deal with a lot of problems. Against control, you definitely want cards like Den Protector, Griffin Aerie and also the Dawn of Hope. And although it has some removal, maybe combo decks is our worst matchup. And this week's winner for the card market voucher will be Jos van Oosterwijk. And if you also want to win a voucher or just want to support the channel, just leave a comment below to tell me what you want to see next time. And while you're waiting, check out some of our matches instead. And as always,
3 lives. Keep it casual.